Time talking about how they relate to the other words, and we may do that in an additional sermon. Everyone on Palm Sunday, a few days before, wanted Jesus' hand. It was a great parade, and they wanted to shake hands with him. You know the image well. Jesus is entering the city of Jerusalem, a parade atmosphere, a crowd presses in to see Jesus, the new hero, to catch a glimpse of him, and more importantly for those in the first couple rows to touch him. He rides on a beast that had not been ridden before. People throw off their coats in front of him and wave, wanting the beast of burden to not have to touch the sod. But a few days later, now, there's no one there that wants to touch his hand. Before, if he'd have reached out his hand, there would have been 100 or more that wanted to high-five him, but now he's alone. When hands meet, something is conveyed, isn't it? My brother, when he was graduating from college and getting ready to go out on interviews, had the opportunity to get on the schedule for my mom's boss. My mom was administrative assistant for Northwest Mutual Life Insurance Company, and the senior executive vice president was her boss. And he said, I will meet with your son and talk about how he can present himself. You know, we don't have any jobs here that I can offer, so it's not an interview. And Daryl was all psyched about this. He's going to get all this information from someone who started at the bottom and has made it all the way next to the CEO desk. He said, you know what he did for the first 45 minutes? We practiced shaking hands. And Daryl said, how mundane. The guy said, now, Daryl, if your hand is just not very strong, that indicates that you're not a very strong person. So the next time, Daryl, when they were practicing, Daryl took his hand and just squeezed. Now that says you're a bully. And they went on talking about how you convey your true self and how you present yourself and how important that is. It makes a difference. It makes a difference in how we relate to others when we are with their hand, when we are holding hands. We learn much from hands. Remember in the great American novel, Gone with the Wind, how Scarlett is attempting to hide how tough things are on the plantation, and she goes to meet Rhett Butler, and even under his gloves he could feel her calluses and knew that she was working the fields and things had to be tough there. We learn so much from someone's hands, don't we? The hand speaks to us, and not just in sign language. I remember my grandpa Buck, a farmer from LaPorte City, out of LaPorte City, Iowa, in Blackhawk County. I was about this high with my favorite memory of Grandpa. We went to the Blackhawk County Fair. Now I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I didn't know anything about cows and horses and pigs and all of the other animals that were there. I certainly didn't know what to do with this great big crowd. And I was just anxious as could be. But you know what happened? Grandpa reached down, that tall, slender farmer reached down and grabbed my hand. When he grabbed my hand, my chest pumped out, and I wanted to tell everyone, don't mess with me, I've got my grandpa's hand. There was some power in that. He was saying something by taking my hand. That strong, rugged, hard-working man was saying, don't you mess with this little kid. He's mine. There is power in that. And what about when you take your grandchild to cross the street? Now, she's got orders, you don't cross the street. But if Grandma or Grandpa have her by the hand, she can cross the street. The whole world stops for you and her. Do you remember the hand of the first time you held hands with someone who was special in your life? Did you just reach out and grab it? If you did, you had more courage than I did. You kind of gradually go a couple, try to get another signal. Is it okay? Is it? But when your hands finally meet and you're holding hands, there is something going on then. It is powerful. It says, this is good, this is fun, this is great. There were times when you just needed to hold someone's hand. Maybe you were scared. You'd gone to see a movie and you thought you were pretty tough, but you were scared. Or maybe when the tension is too strong, you needed a hand to hold on to. Maybe it was your high school basketball team was in a playoff overtime, and you didn't want to just be one of the crowd. You wanted to be part of it, so you held hands. It took me a number of years as a pastor to realize that when you go to a hospital or in other crisis situations and offer a prayer, that there was tremendous power in holding someone's hand. Now sometimes you get a sense that they don't want it held, that's a different thing, but so many times there is a powerful sense. And it's powerful enough that I think the words of the prayer may not be as important as the connection that you are making with this person on behalf of God and the whole community of faith. There is something very, very powerful about that. I'm going to suggest 3 ways that when there is a connection between hands, what it means to us. First of all, when someone has my hand, I am connected. There is so much of life that we are not connected, where we are alone. We're in a crowd, but we don't know anyone. We know people, but we don't really know people. But when someone has my hand, they may not know all the stories of my life, but I am connected. Connected to flesh and blood. I am not alone. The other person has risked that they are willing to be connected with me. And in this day of isolation, I am not alone. I'm not merely a mailing list number or an email. I am connected. We need that. And that is one of the great miracles of the community of faith, is connecting us to each other and, more importantly, to God. Second, when someone has my hand, I feel a lot stronger. There is strength in numbers. It's like being built on that sense of isolation that I just referred to. When I am holding someone's hand, I realize that I am connected to many more than just that person. I am connected in the community of faith. Just one kidney stone story. When the doctor came in and said, we're doing surgery, or the nurse came in and said, have you seen the doctor? And I said, no, well, you're scheduled for surgery in a half an hour. And I felt really good about that. And even though I've been through this many, many times, there's still a little bit of anxiety. And when Susan and I were holding hands, there was just the power of knowing that things are going to be all right. Well, they may not be all right, but things are going to be so much better than they would be if you weren't holding someone's hand. Holding someone's hand, you feel stronger. You feel like you're not alone. When someone has my hand, I feel secure. Now, I could get arrested for child abuse, what I'm going to tell you now. When our son Matt was about that big, 4 years old, something like that, maybe probably 3 years old, we had a game that we would play. I would grab him by the ankles, pick him up, and I would swing him and swing him and swing him and then throw him in the air and catch him. And he would giggle and laugh and more. Well, I didn't fully realize that it was possible for me to drop him. Because I can't think that's really it. Yeah, I was a shortstop in college, so but in Matt's eyes, he wasn't going to get dropped. And he loved it.
He loved it. Why was he so excited? Oh, it was exhilarating to flip over and all that, but it never entered his mind that he would be dropped. He was secure because his hand had been held, and his hand was going to be held again. It wasn't just the flipping through the air. It was knowing that there is someone holding him. This is probably the most significant Christmas gift I've ever gotten. When that little boy, who I used to flip upside down and all that, was a sophomore or junior in college, and was taking a art minor, realizing that art may be a lot of fun for him and sculpturing and things like that, but you need a paycheck, so he became a teacher. Can you see what this is? It's a hand holding the earth. Now, there's some Greek mythology that relates to this, and certainly some Christian imagery that relates to it. But it reminds me of the power of those hands that Jesus commended himself into. That God has a hold of things. But there is a stability that we are in his hands. Whether we're a child being flipped through the air, or whether we feel like the world is flipping us through the air, we have a sense that things are going to be all right. We are held in those arms. Jesus understood trust. He trusted Mary and Joseph. He trusted his disciples. And even in the midst of the excruciating pain of the cross, he knew the comforting arms of his Father were with him. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Hands that Jesus was commending into his spirit were the same hands that had walked with him when he went into the temple at 12 and learned and listened and even taught. The same hands that led him to the river for baptism. The same hands that gave him strength when he was working in the carpenter shop. The same hands that gave him strength when facing temptation. The same hands that gave him courage to face the hungry multitudes. The same hands that held him up when he faced opposition of religious and political leaders. They were hands that he knew. Hands that had caught him before, and hands that were there even now. Who's holding your hand today? I trust that you have people that are holding your hand. Not just figuratively, but physically. But let us never be confused. When Jesus said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, he was offering to us also that we be held in his hands, that we give our lives to him, and that he holds us in his hand. Hand that is so gentle that a 4-year-old can feel the power of it. Hands that are strong enough that can hold the reality of God's creation. To God be the glory.